Hello, crafty friends. This is Julia. Thank you so much for joining me on my crafting adventures. Today, I have a super fun video to share with you. This time, I'm trying foiling on cards for the first time, and this video is actually part of a collaboration blog hop between Heffy Doodle and Therm O Web, and I'm so happy to be participating. I will link to the coordinating blog post down below because you can win prizes, so be sure to check that out. First, let's go over all the products that I'm using. I'm using the Therm O Web, tape runner, and 3D foam squares. Wow embossing powder in opaque bright white. Versamark, Nouveau crystal glaze, stickles and stardust. The Glubert from Heffy Doodle, the mini die cutting machine, reverse tweezers. The ones I'm using are from Cricut, a jelly roll pen, and my quick stick tool. Then for the foiling, I'm using the Deco foil toner sheets as well as the Sweet Swirls toner sheets from the Laura Kelly collection. Then I'm using the Stencil Pal as well as foils in Opal, rainbow shattered glass, amethyst watercolor, and lilac, as well as the Transfer Gel Duo. For stamps, I'm using the Laura Kelly for Therm O Web Kindness on Purpose stamp set, and I'm using the big rainbow as well as two of the sentiments from this stamp set. And from Heffy Doodle, I'm using the Will You Be Mine, those cute little hedgehogs, and I'm using the two up top and the little one in the middle with a flower. Then I'm using Fluffy Puffy Unicorns, and I'm using two of those unicorns, which I think is so cute. And I'm also using the clouds from this. And then I'm using Unbearable Without You for the little bear. I'm adding a little mouth to the bear and also the thought bubble. And for dies, I'm using the Stitched Slimline Trio dies, and I'm using the second to largest and also the little window frames. Then I'm using the Sweet Scalloped Slimline dies, the largest of those. And I'm also using the war die, the Moi, which I think is just so fun. I'm using the Imperial Stitched Rectangles, the largest size of those. And I'm using the Silver Linings Cloud Borders for one of my cards as well. For stencils, I'm using the Ringo Rosies, the Starfall Stencil, and the Cloudy Sky Stencil. So without further ado, let's get started. First, I'm ink blending some clouds on my stitched panel, and I had some trouble deciding which cloud border I wanted to start with. Then I'm using Shaded Lilac Distress Oxide ink, and I'm just ink blending the cloud edges. I'm making sure to add a little purple fade, but I added quite a bit more of the purple near the edge so that it stands out more. I didn't do it at the for the top cloud border, but this time here you can see I'm just adding a little bit more definition at the very edge of the clouds. Adding in my third little cloud border. Again, going in for a bit more definition. And now I'm just using one of the edges. I quickly wiped off the stencil so that I wouldn't transfer any of the ink, and then I flipped it around so that I would have the different orientation of the cloud border. And then accidentally shifted my little stencil there. Then I'm just adding my last little cloud border. And then I'm just adding a little bit of shading from the bottom. I will eventually be covering that up with a die cut, but at this point I just wanted to add it. Then I'm also using some shaded lilac splatters. Then I'm using the Starfall Stencil as well as the transfer gel, and I'm just adding a spatula to add it on and then using the Stencil Pal to smooth everything out, trying to make sure that there's an even coat all the way around. Then I'm carefully removing the stencil and I'm putting that to the side to dry, and I'm cleaned off the stencil as well as the tools immediately so that the transfer gel doesn't dry on there. Then for my coloring, I stamped all of the images onto Bristol Smooth paper, and now I'm using my Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers to color them in. The first marker colors I'm using are 80 and 803 for the purple, Now I'm going in with 32 and 31 for my blue shade. And I'm going in with a colorless blender just to blend it all together, making sure that it doesn't come out too intense because I wanted the card to still be fairly pastel colored. Then I'm going in with 42 as well as 33, which is a little bit darker. And again, just pulling out the color with the colorless blender, wiping off the color just so that I don't drag too much dark color. Then I'm going in with 51 and 55 for the yellow. And then I'm bringing in 25 and 200 for my pink. I also added a little bit of the 803 on the clouds for a little bit of shading there. Then I'm going in with 904 for my unicorns. I wanted them to be mostly white, so I just added a little bit of shading around the edges. And then I went in for a second coat with the 904. Was it 904? No, I'm not sure. But you saw it on screen, and I will also put like a little title up top. And this time I'm not blending out the color, I'm just blending out the edges so that I keep the definition. And I use the same color as on the rainbow on the hair of my unicorns. And then I'm also adding a little bit of blush on the cheeks and on the insides of the ears. Now it's time to add some foil. I made sure to let the panel with the transfer gel dry for about an hour, and the transfer gel actually turns clear once it's ready to be foiled. So I made sure that I gave it enough time. And the foil color I'm using is called Opal, and it's this beautiful, like pearl colored oil slick almost. It's so pretty. Then I just added the foil to my panel, and I just folded a piece of copy paper in half just to protect the foil. And I'm running it through my laminator twice. I made sure to not even open the envelope. I just ran it through again because if you like peel up the foil and then run it through the laminator again, it can dull the foil. So here you can see the beautiful result. I was so happy. This was the first time of me actually trying to foil with like the Deco foil gel, and I had so much fun. The result is so beautiful. And here I'm using the toner sheet. This is just a full stick sheet of the adhesive for the foil. And I just used the foil in the color Lilac. And there you can see the beautiful shine. And now I'm just running that through the mini die cut machine to cut out the word moi, which I think is just so fun. And I'm also die cutting it 3 times out of white cardstock just so that I can layer it for a bit more dimension. I was so impressed with the foiling results. I never really tried it before. I had the transfer gel and some foils in my stash, but I was always kind of afraid to use them. And now I'm so glad that I did. And now I'm just layering my die cuts just to make sure that it has a nice dimension. Also, the toner sheet from the Deco foil is fairly thin since it's just regular paper. So it was nice to give it some more sturdiness with the cardstock behind it. Then I'm stamping the second part of my sentiment, "You are one of a kind" from the Fluffy Puffy Unicorns, on a cloud border. And now it's already time to assemble my first card. I'm just adding some of the elements using Glubert, just adding them to the background. Then I'm also adding liquid glue to the back of my like die cut sentiment. And then I added my cloud border with foam squares. And then I'm also adding foam squares, one to the top of each unicorn, and I'm adhering the bottom with liquid glue so that they are on the same level as the cloud border. Off to the side, you can already see that I die cut some little hearts out of the remaining foiled toner sheet that I used with a lilac foil. And I'm just adding 3 dots on my panel, and I'm just adding some different sized hearts between the 2 unicorns. Now I just added some tape runner to a card base, and I'm adding that down. And that finishes off my first project. The foil, the shine is so pretty. Oh my god, I had so much fun on this. So on to the next one. This time I'm using one of the toner sheets. This one has like a pattern in comparison to the one that was like all black. So everything that's black on the toner sheet will have the foil stick to it. So I'm just adding some spun sugar. Then I'm going in with evergreen bough and also some, what is it? Peacock feathers. That's right, peacock feathers. I had to check the screen. Then I'm going in with Kitsch Flamingo to add some more pink. And then I'm also bringing in a little bit of shaded lilac at the top. I usually use oxide, distress oxide inks for ink blending because I just find that they're easier to blend. But for the toner sheets, I decided just to not risk it, and I went ahead and used the regular distress inks because they're dye-based. I was worried that the pigment from the distress oxide ink would lay over top of the toner and then the foil wouldn't stick anymore. So just a little note on that. Then I'm coloring in my little hedgehogs with the number 64, 74, and also a little bit of the 200 and the colorless blender. Off to the side, you can already see that I colored the little bear. I'm using the exact same shades for the bear that I used on the hedgehogs, so I won't be showing the coloring of him, but just so that you know, those are the exact same shades that you can see on screen now. Then I'm going in with 68 around the edge near the body of the hedgehog because this would where the most shadow would be. Then I'm blending that out with 65. And then I'm pulling the color out a little bit further with the 64 marker. And then on the edges, I'm just using the colorless blender, making sure that I wipe off the tip of the brush every now and again so that I don't pull too much dark color. And then I'm also just adding a few quick swipes for added definition of the darkest shade. Then the foil color I'm using is the Rainbow Shattered Glass, and you get 5 sheets. And on screen you can see that they're all a little bit different regarding the rainbow colors. And it just is this beautiful like broken glass pattern, which is just beautiful. And again, I ran that through my laminator twice. And here you can see the beautiful foil result. I die cut a scallop panel and I'm ink blending just the edges with Kitsch Flamingo, just so that it matches the rest of the colors on my card. Off camera, I also die cut the little window piece and I made sure to add the windows a little bit off center so that I would have enough room to add my sentiment. And I'm just stamping that in black straight onto the panel. Then I'm adding liquid glue to the frames and I just cut down the little foiling strip into 3 equal parts. Sorry, my head keeps popping in there. And I'm just adding that to the back of the panel. And then I'm just adding liquid glue to the entire back and adding it to the scallop piece. Making sure it's nice and centered. And I really like the sentiment with a little like foiled confetti in the background. I thought that was just super fun. And now I'm just adding my little hedgehogs just with liquid glue. Also adding the little flower balloon. I wanted to add some sparkle there, so I'm adding the Stardust Stickles. And now I'm just adding a few white gel pen details to the like edges of the hedgehogs so that the like spikes kind of stand out a little bit more. And I'm never really sure where to add the white gel pen highlights, so I just kind of wing it. And that finishes off card number 2 for today. Wow, those hedgehogs are just so cute, and that pretty confetti foil in the background is just so fun. And now, last but not least, I'm going in with more ink blending. I'm using spun sugar, Kitsch Flamingo, shaded lilac, and salvaged patina. Just moving the panel a little bit further down so that you can actually see the entire panel while I'm ink blending. Then I'm going in with the Kitsch Flamingo, just around the center. And I never really ink blended in a circle like this before, I think. At least I don't think I did. Maybe for a moon. Yeah, that's possible. But I really try to stay in the center. It was kind of off center in the end, but it's fine because I really wanted to create a similar shape to the stencil that I will be putting on top. So I'm just blending the colors back and forth, trying not to overlap the purple and the pink, as well as the teal and the purple too much so that the colors get like muddy. And at this point I thought this is not working, but I just kept adding more ink and it turned out fine in the end. I just didn't have enough ink on there just yet. Then I'm going in with a salvaged patina just from the edges. And at this point I still wasn't happy with it, so I just decided, more ink can't hurt. And this is when it really came together quite nicely. So if you're not sure while you're doing it, just keep blending. Just keep trying. Most of the time it actually ends up working out just fine. And any of the most of the inking will actually be covered by the stencil, so it's not a big deal if something isn't blended perfectly. There you can see the beautiful pattern of the stencil. So again, I'm spreading the transfer gel up top, and then I'm using my little scraper, the Stencil Pal, and I'm just making sure that it has an even coat all the way around, scraping any of the excess back into the jar. There wasn't any of the oxide color that bled onto into the paste, so it was fine to scoop it back in. And I carefully peeled up the stencil and I set that off to dry as well. I made sure to leave it for about an hour until, again, the gel was translucent, as you can see here. And this time I'm using the Deco foil in watercolor amethyst. Again, putting it in a sheet of copy paper, running it through twice. And there you can see the beautiful foil result. It's just so pretty. I love anything like sparkly and glittery, so this is right up my alley. Then I'm just stamping the sentiment onto a strip of cardstock, a black strip of cardstock in Versamark ink. And I'm using my Wow Superfine white embossing powder. Off to the side, I'm already letting my heat gun heat up, just so that it's nice and hot before I take it to the cardstock. And then I'm running it over the embossing powder until it's smooth and melted. I had a few areas where the embossing powder didn't quite cover, so I'm just using a white gel pen again and just fixing any of those. Then I'm using my tape runner to add it to a white piece of cardstock that's just slightly larger than my panel. And I'm cutting off the excess off camera. I added some foam squares to the back of my cute little bear. And then I'm also adding some foam squares to the back of my sentiment strip, just so that those are both on the same level. And I want it to be like slightly below the feet of my little bear so that it looks like it's standing on the sentiment strip. I also added the foam squares to the thought bubble, placing that on top, and then I'm adding a little heart. I actually used the negative piece of the foil, and I just added some glue to a piece of cardstock, smoothed a liquid glue. I just smoothed it out, ran the foil over top, and then I peeled it up. And this is also a super quick way to add foil. And then I just die cut it with a little heart shape. I wanted to add some dimension to the heart, so I'm using Nuvo Crystal Glaze, and I also added the two little speech bubbles, or thought bubbles, sorry. And there you can see the beautiful purple shine of the foil and also the dimension of the heart. And I think this little bear is just so cute. Here are all three cards all together, and I had so much fun making these. I'm so glad that I finally tried foiling on cards. I had some of the products in my stash for probably about a year, and I bought them and then never used them because I was too intimidated to try them. But it was so easy, and I'm so glad that I finally did. Let me know in the comments down below which card is your favorite, and have you tried foiling on cards before? I would love to know. I will leave the link to the blog post for the hop down below. You can win gift cards from both companies, so be sure to check that out if you would like. And I hope I'll see you next time. Until then, have an amazing week. Bye!